Hello and welcome to another episode of Dallas We Have a Podcast. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. We just recorded a whole intro and then realized we weren't recording properly. So
Oops.
I'm going to skip a lot of that intro that we did. There was a lot of just super funny jokes, but you're going to have to miss out on those. So on today's episode, we're watching some really terrible movies. Really bad. Like when you think about a bad movie, and when you think about how sometimes you think about people are watching like a funny bad movie, and it's like these are not those. They're terrible.
Let's put it this way. Last episode I said I liked stupid things. I hated everything I watched for this episode.
Yeah, they're bad. They're terrible. So our guest for the episode, I'm gonna cruise right through this intro because we've already done this ourselves. Dan, you've been on the episode before. The folks, our dedicated user base, they know you.
They know me. They love me.
Yes.
They respect you.
Our new guest on the episode, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
As usual, as we have our guests introduce ourselves, we have them pick a movie character in a movie that represents them as a person. What can you tell us about yourself to our audience?
It'd have to be Arnold in Commando. This is, I think, early 90s movie, and it was the first movie that back in Serbia, my homeland, we had on VHS. So John Matrix, Arnold's character, retired special forces. There's just so many things to love. His physique, his his like passion and love for his daughter who's been kidnapped. His physique, his like one-liners.
His no remorse.
Just no remorse.
Killing everyone.
Yeah, the dude is just like off. I love it. So I could watch that movie all freaking day. Yeah, Commando, John Matrix, Arnold at his finest.
Very relatable.
Sweet. So the movies that we have watched today that we're gonna talk to you about, and so this movie studio, the Asylum, they've actually made over 200 movies. They also make the claim that they've never lost money on a movie before. I think that's because their budgets are so low. The movies that we decided to watch were Nazis at the Center of the Earth, Transmorphers, Atlantic Rim, and Titanic 2. So we're going to tell you all about the plot, the character arcs, the cinematography of these movies, in-depth analysis that you expect from the quality of this podcast. Only on San Antonio we have a podcast. So first up, Dan, you are going to take us through Nazis at the Center of the Earth. So please, let us know what this movie was about.
Oh man, I wish I could say it's my pleasure, but it's totally not with this particular piece. Yeah, it really makes me feel great just to be of German descent. This movie. Okay, so just to give a brief synopsis, basically, in the last days of the war, a small group of Nazi soldiers manages to retreat deep underground with a strange machine, and then it cuts ahead, and there's a bunch of scientists in the Antarctic, and a couple of them suddenly disappear. They get captured. And the rest of them mount like a rescue, and then they get captured as well after discovering this like deep underground sort of habitat, sort of temperate, warm environment.
It's like deep underground, but for some reason it has a sun.
Yeah, there's a sun shining through ice, even though the ice would be impossibly thick. Like it's ice.
So
but
the scientists are captured by the Nazis?
Yeah, they're captured
Yes.
by the Nazis, and the Nazis are all wearing like masks, like gas masks and stuff.
Are they the same Nazis, or have they like been
So
breeding?
it's revealed. Okay, so what happens? So then what happens is it's revealed that the Nazis have been harvesting the skins and organs of their captives, and they basically graft it onto themselves to prolong their lives. And so basically it leaves them looking really hideous and deformed, sort of like Nazi zombies. Like that's what I thought when I saw it. It's creepy as hell. So okay, for any Star Trek fans out there, they're basically the Vidians, which is a race from Star Trek Voyager.
Does anyone get that reference?
No. Okay. Well, I'm sure someone out there will get it. But basically, they graft, they harvest the skin and other organs, and it prolongs their life and that sort of thing. So yeah, and then about the halfway point, they basically resuscitate Hitler,
course.
and who's basically like a
It was
a
just his
robot.
head in a jar.
Yes, it was his head in like a jar on the giant killer death robot.
Did he look like Mr. Freeze?
He looked worse.
No,
the CG was particularly bad.
It was so bad the actor couldn't turn his head because if he turned, then I assume they couldn't animate him anymore. So
Right.
just if he had to turn, like the whole robot would have to like turn around.
Yeah, so it was it was pretty bad. Oh, and then it kind of ends off by the Nazis have this like flying saucer, this super heavily armed and armored flying saucer type ship that just suddenly takes off, and they blast. They have like laser guns and super high technology, and they blast through the ice and go to the surface to reconquer the world. Now that they've got Hitler back, they are like, okay, now we can reconquer the world. Yeah, it was really bad. So if I were to describe this in 3 words, I would call it a horrid, nonsensical mess. Like the writing, acting, plot, it's all terrible. It was worse than I expected, and it was different than I expected. I thought it would be so. Paulo, you also watched this, so. I went into it thinking that it would be like a really cheesy, corny action-adventure type.
Yeah, I thought at the very least I would be able to laugh at it, but it's
disturbing.
It's boring. It's worse than disturbing. It's just boring.
It's boring, but there's some disturbing points to it. So I have some stuff I sort of jotted down was like the worst scene.
Is it when they pull the guy's face off?
Oh, well, that was funny, actually. I laughed out loud. So the first couple of scientists they capture, which leads to the rest of them mounting the rescue.
So who's the main who are we following through this
Oh, okay,
story?
so there's I call him Dr. Bad Guy. He's
This is the protagonist?
This is the antagonist.
Okay.
He's basically
He's like the
German
Eichmann,
doctor.
right? Like the Eichmann. Because Eichmann was like the doctor back in World War II that wasn't put on
Yeah,
trial.
who does
He
all
did
these
the crazy
experiments, the
experiments.
hideous experiments. Yeah, so this is what I was
That's
going
the
to say.
antagonist.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is what I was going to say, is that it wasn't this action-adventure sort of thing I was expecting. It was like almost like a gory, almost like horror in a way. Because
Yeah,
it was,
I guess.
like it was like almost like a slasher in a way, because you see people's
It
like,
just shows-
faces get ripped
It
off.
just shows the scientists get killed one by one.
Yeah,
And there's absolutely nothing else.
like
to the
there's
movie.
no point to like half of it.
How are the practical effects on when people die? Like, is this bad CG? Is it bad practical effects?
It's bad. So when like the one guy's face is ripped off, it's bad. It's practical effects. Like it's all red. Like it just it's like raw face with
Or
no
when
skin on it.
There was like the girl who they like took her brain out, and
Okay, right. So this is how they resuscitate. This is how they bring back Hitler. They're like, oh, we need stem cells, and this machine that it shows at the beginning that they sort of take with
That
them
was the
to
point of the
center.
machine?
Yeah, that was the machine. The machine they basically take stem cell like raw stem cells, and they inject it because it's in like a syringe that they've extracted, and then they inject it into the machine, and then that's supposed to just magically make Hitler sort of wake up on the robot body. And so they try that with a brain, like stem cells directly from the brain. And then what they do, then it's revealed like 2 minutes later that one of the female characters is pregnant. So then the one evil scientist is like,
With like a baby
like-
Hitler or like
no,
what
just
is she
like the
pregnant
fetus.
with?
Just
She
no,
was pregnant
just
before they went down.
before they
there.
went down there. So it's like the fetus is in her,
okay.
and then
Yeah.
suddenly the evil scientist is like, wait a minute, we'll just use a vacuum cleaner type device. And I feel like it was a vacuum cleaner because of the low budge, but he has like this vacuum cleaner, and he like it shows her lying there, and she's like screaming like you know what I mean, and a blanket over her so you can't like actually
Yeah.
see it.
'Cause they can't
But he
afford it.
basically sucks out the fetus
Oh my god.
to get the stem cells
Are
from
they
the
like
fetus.
super stem cells because it's a fetus?
That's the science that they mentioned. Like, oh, apparently a fetus stem cells are more potent or whatever. So then that's what works. That's what brings Hitler back. And oh my god. But no, I feel like the worst scene is the rape scene.
Oh
Wait,
yeah.
So before
Whoa.
before that, there's a scene where one of the other female characters. How many scientists was there? Like 8 maybe.
There were like 8 or 9 scientists.
8 or 9, yeah.
And maybe 3 of them had like speaking roles.
Yeah, like right. So we'll maybe get into a couple of the main characters in a minute, but basically one of the female scientists, they're taken to this room, and what's so bad is they mention that they're getting showers. Right? They're like, oh, so to the three female characters. They're like scientist characters. They're like, oh, we need to take you aside for showers, and that's considering it's Nazis, it's like, oh my god, as I'm watching it, and then all of a sudden they take them to some room. Yeah, they take them to some room, and all of a sudden one of them is like grabbed and dragged aside, and then like 4 or 5 zombie Nazis basically like surround her.
One of them like starts like intimidating her, and then he like cuts her shirt open. And
right,
then,
it shows him he pulls out a knife and he cuts out or cuts off her shirt or.
Yeah, and then
presumably there's no actual nudity.
No, there is. You see her boobs.
You see her boobs.
And I was like, this whole scene, I was like, please don't do this for this movie.
Yeah.
If you're an actress,
Save it for something.
so
make it worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it for this movie.
But no, she does, and then she gets raped by 4 Nazi zombies. It's just really, it's just really weird.
This takes me out of my comfort zone.
So this movie is actually playing in the background. This scene will pop up at one point, is what you're saying.
No, we passed it already.
Oh, okay, good.
Wait, we this did?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
But also there's I have to mention that one of the scientists, like the main characters, he is if you've ever seen Starship Troopers, he's the jock guy that makes friends with Rico, and he gets his hand stabbed in by the drill instructor. And you remember this guy?
Oh my god, it was that guy, the blonde guy.
Yeah, he's like a really dumb guy. He's like, hey man.
I thought our main character was the dumb guy in Starship Troopers.
Oh well, like another dumb. He was like dumber. He was that was the whole point of his character.
He was the blonde guy.
He's big and dumb, and he's like.
I'm gonna have another Starship Troopers crossover later on in this episode.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
But that he was actually he plays the head scientist in this movie, but he's the same guy as he was in Starship Troopers. Where he's supposed to be a brilliant scientist, but he talks like, haha, we're in Antarctica, dude, and like like an idiot. He sounds like the dumbest person alive.
Dude has one gear and that's it.
Yeah. And it turns out that he's like in cahoots with the Nazis. So he's the one that
he's the one that led them all down during the rescue mission
wait a sec.
to get captured.
Okay, how many... I know this sort of might be a theme for all the movies, but like how many twists would you say there are in the Nazi
really
movie?
just that one.
Yeah.
I would say that's the only twist. He plays off as being like, one of them and one of the good guys, and all of a sudden when the Nazis capture them, when they descend to the center, to the Nazi base, the Nazis surround them, they capture him, and then he just sort of steps up and says, all right, Heil.
So as to my original question, who's the protagonist of this film?
Okay, so the protagonist
it's a scientist guy that I don't even know his name.
Yeah, I can't recall his
Pretty
name.
like par for the course in terms of the main characters, but
like in the beginning of the movie, it's established that he has some beef with the main scientist guy, like the head scientist,
the guy who portrays them.
Yeah,
yes.
Because he like caused a bunch of deaths before, so he's like,
which
I won't have that on this base, blah blah blah.
Yeah, they have this little like scene where he's confronting him.
Yeah, and it looks like a classroom where like the rest of the scientists are sitting at desks, and then they're watching this fight go on, and they're like, oh my god, they're like gossiping like little children, but. And then later in the movie, the Nazi guy is like, we brought you down here because you're the most brilliant scientists of your field. And we're like, when did this happen?
Yeah, when did this happen? And that only becomes a thing for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They do like some because they're like, oh, we need you to keep us alive.
Yeah.
To help.
That was the whole reason why.
That's the whole reason. And then they forget about that in 5 minutes. Because then Hitler, then they start killing them one by one, and then the Hitler thing gets resurrected.
I think that's a theme of these movies of setting stuff up that never gets paid off.
Yeah.
At least in the movies I watch.
For sure.
100%. And like non sequitur transitions and like unnecessary scenes and dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you continue.
And the main and the main character, again, we can't recall his name, but the good scientist guy, his girlfriend ends up joining the Nazis right off the bat.
The Stockholm syndrome.
Well, no, she joins
because she was of German descent.
Right. So the doctor bad guy, like the evil Nazi scientist guy who cuts people apart. he was gonna cut her up because they captured her at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then he stops because she starts like speaking some German and is like, he's like, oh, you're German descent.
No,
yeah.
She said something about like how their soldiers like looked like they needed some treatment or something.
Oh yeah, and then he suddenly
And it's like,
he
you're
pauses.
a doctor.
Yeah, he's like, you're a doctor, and he pauses with the scalpel, and he's
Yeah.
like ready to cut her, and he's like, oh, and then all of a sudden, then when we see her next, once they capture all the rest,
She's
of them,
in a German
she's in a German uniform, and she's suddenly his like right hand gal type
Yeah.
thing, and it's like, what the
But
fuck?
it's so weird how that happens because so the guy that she gets captured with, he's the one who gets his face torn off. And then she escapes from her cell and she sees him and she's like, oh my god. They're like, it's gonna be okay, I'll take care of you. And then they catch her. And then that's when they put her on this bed and they're like, okay, we're gonna cut you up now. And then she starts talking about like, oh, your soldiers need treatment. But she's saying it in the most like matter-of-fact way, like she doesn't care about it. It's like she's totally fine with everything. Her friends, like his face is gone. Dude, that guy needs some... She's saying all these science things just with no care in the world.
So you're saying this movie had bad acting?
No. Get out of here.
Yeah, maybe some bad acting. No. It
Yeah.
was,
So
it
is
was
the moral
bad.
of the movie all Germans are Nazis? Is that and they're bad?
Well,
What did you learn from this movie?
What did I learn from
Not
this?
to watch this movie.
Yeah, like don't watch this movie, everyone. This movie's particularly bad. I don't know if anyone out there has ever watched any MST3K, any Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes. This movie really reminds me of one of the worst of the movies that they lampoon. This movie's fucking awful.
What would be your ratings out of 10?
No,
can
0.
I go negative? Like, it's bad.
Give it a
negative-
solid 9.
A negative 9.
Wait, sorry. I'm looking at because again it's playing behind us, so I'm remembering that the guy who gets his face taken off, at the very
There he
beginning
is.
of the movie, he gets his face and all his skin taken off at the very beginning of the movie. At the end of the movie, when they're trying to escape, they come back to him and he's still alive.
And he's like,
On
kill
the
me.
table.
He's like, kill me. Kill me.
Yeah, and with another scientist guy. Like I mentioned, how there's like 9 of them and like 3 of them have speaking roles. There's one scientist who doesn't speak through the entire movie, and he's like one of the last 2 people to survive. It just like none of this makes sense. I was really mad that I had to watch
I wonder if like because you said his face is ripped off, right?
Yeah.
And he's still alive at the end. Is he still alive when the movie ends? Like, does he like make it out of the base?
Yeah, how does the movie end?
He very well. No, wait. They kill him, right?
Yeah, they
Oh,
kill
okay.
him. They kill him off. How does the movie? So basically, one of the other characters ends up detonating a grenade on the bridge of the flying saucer thing, which is now basically taking out any fighter jets. Like the world starts sending like fighter jets to try to attack the flying saucer.
Without any prompting, like they just
right,
happen
Where
to
did the
send.
saucer come from?
Well, the Germans, the Nazis. Sorry, I want to call them Nazis. They had this flying saucer all along, which is
They-
actually
they
one of the
built it
things
to
that jumped into my head. It's like, wait, if you had this fucking flying saucer all along, why did you wait to reanimate Hitler? We all know what happened last time Hitler led the Nazis. So why didn't they just attack the Earth without Hitler? Anyway. So yeah, they're flying around. They're like blowing up with laser beams and all kinds of shit. Anyone trying to take them out. One of the characters detonates a grenade on the bridge of this thing. It crashes. The last 2 good guy characters, the scientist guy who we can't remember.
Like we don't know anyone's names.
Yeah, we don't know
because-
any names because it was like totally irrelevant. And the girlfriend, the girl
Who
who
at
joined
first-
joined
yeah.
the Nazis, she
She switched back.
she switches back because she switches back. So the 2 of them manage to escape, and then Robot Hitler, of course, escapes the crash of the flying saucer.
And then there's like a epic fight.
And then there's like this fight. Oh, and they beat Hitler by injecting flesh-eating disease like into one of his like orifices, like into one of the
pipes.
pipes of the robot suit. And so he just kind of goes like, ah, and then he like falls in. Suddenly this chasm just opens up beneath him for some weird reason, and he falls in.
Wait, so this flesh-eating disease, I just remembered the way that they discover that there's flesh-eating disease in the vicinity. When they're on the UFO, whatever, the flying saucer, they run into like this area where all the missiles are stored, and then one of the soldiers attacks them, one of the Nazis, and then they kill him by like stabbing him with what was loaded onto the missile.
Oh, right, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the missiles are all loaded with flesh-eating disease."
No, but the thing is, they stab him with it, and his head explodes, and they're like, "That was flesh-eating disease." Like, that's not how flesh-eating disease works. And then that's how they kill Hitler. But like, just this movie.
And then they kiss. Then no. Then the guy's like, "Oh, here," and he opens up a box and a ring is in it. He proposes to her. Remember, they're sitting there in the snow right after they kill Hitler. It's the last 60 seconds of the movie. The guy proposes.
Oh, turned it off already.
I stopped paying attention.
No, for real. He proposes to her and opens up a box with a ring in it, and that's how the fucking movie ends.
Maybe Dan saw the extended edition.
Maybe. Oh man.
Okay, I stopped paying attention well.
So, Alex, me and you haven't seen this movie. Do you feel like you understand what happened in this movie at all?
I actually, on that note, I just want to say to whoever's listening that we are, for the most part, very sober. And I know this sounds like lunacy, like it sounds like two people just talking about nonsense, but I dare you to watch this movie or these movies and try to review them yourself.
Nothing will make sense.
You will sound like a blithering. You might be institutionalized when people hear you talk like this because that's what these movies do to you. They make no sense.
It'll
They're
be
not
an
funny.
hour and a half that you'll lose of your life that will just be gone forever.
It's just impossible to even articulate. It's hard to talk about these movies.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this and I'm like, this movie doesn't make any sense to me, but the movies I watched also don't make any sense to me.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to stop that there. For our first kind of break segment here, we got a bit of a treat for you here today. Usually we have a getting to know you segment of our session. And for this, Dan has elected to go something that we've asked a couple guests here. Instead of questions, we're going to reenact a scene. And Dan, I'll let you tee up the scene of why you chose it and anything you want to say before we actually get into it.
All right. So, unlike the movie we just talked about, I think this is a movie that everybody's seen. Pulp Fiction. It's fucking amazing. And everybody knows this scene. It's Samuel L. Jackson doing his whole "what" scene near the beginning. So I'm just gonna kind of reenact this scene with some help from a couple of the fine fellows here. So yeah.
This is gonna be fun.
This is gonna be great. Okay, so here we go.
Get into character. Oh, sorry.
Wait, start again.
All right, let's start again. Okay. Vincent. We happy?
Oh, we happy.
Look, what's your name? I got his name, Vincent, right? But what's yours?
My name's Pitt, and you ain't talking your ass out of this shit.
I just want you to know how sorry we are about how we fucked up things between us and Mr. Wallace. When we entered into this thing, we had only the best intentions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did that break your concentration? I didn't mean to do that. Please, continue. I believe you were saying something about best intentions. You were finished. Well, allow me to retort. What does Marcellus Wallace look like? What country are you from?
What?
What ain't no country I know? Do they speak English and what?
What?
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
Yes?
Then you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like.
What?
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
Well, he's black
Go on.
and he's bald.
Does he look like a bitch?
What?
Does he look like a bitch?
No,
Then why you try to fuck him like a bitch?
I didn't.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Brett. You tried to fuck him. Marcellus Wallace don't like to be fucked by anyone except Mrs. Wallace. You ever read the Bible, Brett?
Yes.
There's this passage I got memorized. Seems appropriate for this situation. Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of the darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper, and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you.
Bang, 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 bang.
Bang, 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 bang.
Rest in peace, Brett. Welcome back to Houston. We have a podcast. Moving right along to our next piece of shit movie that I was forced to watch just last night. Transmorphers has. You'd think it has something to do with Transformers, but no, it doesn't. It's not. You can't even call this a knockoff, because I'm just getting really mad thinking back. So I'm gonna do my best to explain what went down in Transmorphers. Where do I begin? Okay, so the movie starts. First of all, I think it goes without saying that none of this is going to make sense.
Much a given from.
If you've been listening thus far, I think you have a good idea of how much sense these movies make. But basically, there's a. Oh, okay. It explains how like the world gets destroyed because there's like this an invasion of robots from outer space, and humanity has to go underground because
Decepticons.
they took over the world. No, they're not. Sorry. On that note, just as a side, it's called Transmorphers, but there's no reference throughout the entire movie to them transforming, like. They change the robots. They change, but they change from a robot to like a robot with a gun. Like but that's
So they morph guns.
Before you get too much into this, I made predictions for each of the movies that I was going to watch. I thought I was going to be watching Transmorphers, and I didn't. So I ended up having some predictions that I still don't know about. But looking back on it, I think most of my predictions were based on that I assumed this was going to be a ripoff of Transformers, which. These movies actually come out the same week that the movie they're ripping off comes out. So the people who are making these have no idea what the movie they're ripping off is actually about. So the predictions I had...
Well, sorry, really quick about that. They didn't even try to rip it off.
They rip off the title and that's it.
Yeah.
I made the prediction that there was going to be someone who was in school that was probably played by like a 30-plus-year-old actor.
No.
I thought there was going to be a ripoff of Bumblebee, of like somebody who can't talk.
No.
I don't remember my other predictions, but it was all based on like a ripoff of Transformers, and I'm getting the impression that was not the case.
None of your predictions were correct.
Carson, we're gonna ask you to transmorph your predictions because this and to your point, I mean the cartoon's been around forever, so they would have known what Transformers do. But like Paul was saying, this is not fucking Transformers.
It's not even about the robots. It's just people in a world, like in a destroyed world, and there's robots there trying to kill them. Like that's the essence of the movie.
Giant robots.
Giant
right?
robots. Yeah.
Giant robots like on the surface, roaming around. They kill you if they see you.
Yes, they attack. Like they can read your mind. For some reason, like certain people, they can read their minds, and that's how they like every time the humans try to like make a plan, just one of them gets their mind read, and then the whole plan goes to shit. These robots are named like an acronym of like a combination of letters that don't stand for anything. If you've ever seen War Dogs, like AEY, they're the business. Okay, no, I'm getting too far. Sorry, I'm getting too far off on a tangent. But basically, so. The movie's about the humans are underground. They're trying to like find a way to defeat these robots. There's like a whole backstory about this revolution. I think I'm trying really hard to remember what happened. Like there's a backstory of a revolution of like within the humans. Like there's a civil war or something, because they had like different ideals, and they touch on that a bit. And then there's like a love story. There's like a 3-way love story between like the main chancellor, or like the general of the humans. She's this lady who is in love with another lady who's like a soldier, who used to be married to our protagonist, who was the leader of the revolution. And I call
like John Connor.
No, it's not like John Connor. I call this guy Irish hero, because he has a very strong Irish accent, I think.
it's an Irish accent, but I did a little bit of digging. I actually spent 2 minutes on his IMDb page.
Oh, good
He's
for you,
actually-
man.
So in the movie, he's Warren.
His name is Warren.
His name is Warren in the movie,
Yep.
but he's actually supposedly his real name is Matthew Wolfe, and he's get this, a London-born theater actor with a law degree.
Wow.
He's got a fucking law degree. I
So
don't know
he
why he's doing these
he
movies.
spent his weekends.
Yeah, and supposedly he's had like a pretty good run of like Broadway-esque shows in London, with like the likes of like Robert Pattinson from Twilight and stuff.
What?
So, oh yeah, I went deep. Like I creeped the shit out of this guy.
Okay, see, that
because
makes
I just don't get why he's in this movie.
exactly. That
and
makes
why
it
he
even
sucks
worse.
so hard.
Yeah.
Like,
why
'cause-
would he do this? Yeah.
Every actor in this movie either acts like a robot, or they have like a caricature where they're like, this is your character. Like, it's like the director told them, this is your character. You're really cool. And then
Yeah.
they
like
tried
a
to...
one-dimensional.
It was like a high school like perspective of like, okay, I'm gonna be really cool. I'll like smoke or something, and I'll use like weird slang that no one uses anymore.
That's pretty consistent with like the other Asylum
Yeah.
movies that I watched. Yeah.
And like, there's this one girl who's like really in support of the main Warren. You remember the girl with the red wavy hair,
Yeah.
and she had like a kind of weird looking face.
Yeah.
I think she was supposed to be like another like cool girl instead of rather than cool guy, but she came off just as like trying to be seductive, and it just felt like the whole movie she was on E. And like that's how she delivered all her lines.
The actress may have been.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's how they survive.
We do not judge on this podcast.
Whatever. Hey, whatever got you through filming. But so the movie we get a little bit into the movie, and then the leaders send like a team of a squad to do something. It's not clear what they're trying to do. A squad of soldiers, they go above ground. It's in the pouring rain. They have like they're all geared up. And one thing that really bothered me was that they all have goggles, and it's pouring rain. You can see it's really hard for them to see, but none of them put their goggles on. And I'm thinking, like, you're in a thunderstorm. If not now, when are you gonna put your goggles on? But that's not important. They just get destroyed by the robots because one of them gets their mind read, and then this prompts the leaders to be like, okay, we need to revive this guy who's like been frozen. The hero
Yeah.
Warren.
Yeah, Irish Warren.
Yeah, he was like a la Demolition Man. He was frozen because he was a criminal. They revive him, and they're like, he's the only guy that can do this because for some reason the robots can't read his mind. He thinks too much like that. He's too much of a cold bastard.
He's a robot himself. Oh man.
Well, we'll get to
what?
that.
Wait. So we've seen the robots at this point?
Yes,
What do the
seen-
robots look like?
Oh yeah, we see them from like the first scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like fucking shit.
They
CGI.
look like shit.
Like this is, this is 2009, but hand to God, this reminded me of like late 90s, sitting with my nerd friends who were like exploring 3D Studio Max. Like, this looked like it was so shit. It was like well before 2009, and yet the movie was made in 2009. So the robots look like garbage. They look like
It looks worse than Contra. If you ever played Contra
Yeah.
on the Super Nintendo,
some kind of mecha warriors. I don't
yeah,
know.
it looks like a high school production. Like literally, not just the robots. Actually, I'll expand this to like the whole shooting, like the whole production value of the entire movie. It looks like a high school production. But sorry, yeah. They revived the leader, and then the next 30% of the movie is like in the base, and it's just about the conflict between like how everyone or people either hate the hero because he led this revolution, or his team that he's selected loves him because they believe in what he believed in, which is not really clear. Like, I don't know what do you know what the revolution was for? Like, why he rebelled against his government or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's like, so, like, it's funny you mentioned, okay, so you mentioned Demolition Man. There's definitely that reference because they're, reviving somebody from cryogenic, right, to bring him back. But there's also this element I got of like Matrix with the whole Zion thing, right? Because humanity's like chased underground. They're protecting their city, and the robots, their whole mission is to try to get into this city, figure out where it is, the coordinates, and then break in. So I think the revolution between, at least amongst the humans, was probably around, how they should govern themselves.
Okay.
Right? Because there were different ideas on how to govern. And this guy, our fellow Warren, we could tell he's a bit of a renegade. He's a bit of a badass. He's got that Irish flair.
He's supposed to be a badass.
Oh, he doesn't fucking listen to anybody, right? Like this guy.
He trains his recruits by telling them to hit him, and then he just beats them up.
And I find in both movies that I watch, that's how our main protagonists build credibility with the audience. They have to kick the shit out of somebody in like a very confident way, and then the audience is expected to go, "Oh yeah, I trust him." I don't know.
They know what they're doing.
Maybe for like daddy issues, but
Yeah. So he puts his team together, this badass, and they embark on their mission, which again is, I think it had to do with capturing a robot and then reprogramming it, or like taking its fuel to make it blow up the other robots.
So they had a plan.
They had a plan.
Sort of.
It's not clear what that plan is. They send his team above ground. They go and they do the things. They just get into
All the things.
They get into a fight with robots, and it's not quite clear what happens from this point. They get
a lot of shooting back and forth. It reminded me of Laser Quest. Like when we used to do that shit.
No, it did actually. Yeah,
it was a lot of.
So his team gets split up, and they try to like. Oh man, you're gonna have to help me here, because like.
They're trying to grab like the fuel cell
Yeah.
from one of the robots, right? And I think once you have the fuel cell, you have to keep the robot alive. That's the trick, right? But but what makes this complicated is if you keep it alive, it has a tracking device. So think about it. You're gonna keep it alive, and then you're gonna try to bring it into your base. But because of the tracking device, the other robots aren't gonna know where it is.
Why do they need to keep it alive?
They need to keep it alive because that's how they can get this fuel cell. Because the moment the robot is dead, the fuel cell has an automatic shut off.
Okay.
And they need this fuel cell in order to,
Was
I
it
think,
like to blow up
reprogram-
their base, or
either to blow them up or like reprogram them, right? But I think like what they figure out in the end is, do you want to reveal the twist?
the twist?
Yeah.
So apparently, through some sequence of events, they need like another robot. They get with one of the robots with a fuel cell, and then they need another robot to transfer the fuel cell into, or something.
Yeah.
Something
to
along
take it
those
into
lines.
their like headquarters, like
Yeah.
the main tower.
Yeah, and then they were like, if only we had another robot. And then their like head scientist is like, well, I made a really, really good one a long time ago, and I made him too perfect. He doesn't even know he's a robot, and it's the main character is a robot.
Warren, the Irish guy, is a robot.
It's the machines couldn't read his mind, not because he was a cold, hard bastard, but because he's a robot. He's an actual robot, and for some reason the robots can't read each other's minds, just humans' minds.
Right.
That's not explained, but basically, that sets up the whole like big sacrifice for like the hero. He's like, okay, I can save the world because I'm a robot, and then it just leads to him basically like going to the base, and then they blow up the base.
Oh, so they win. The humans win.
They do. The humans
Yeah,
prevail.
I mean, like I just wanted to speed through the plot because it's not important.
It sounds painful. Just
Because
So the guy who's a robot, he ends up still being on the good people's side.
yeah, he
Oh,
finds
yeah.
out he's a robot. He has like an existential crisis for about 30 seconds, and then he's like, okay, I can do this. Take me to the base.
he's a true hero.
Yeah, and he's like, he still loves his ex-wife, who's married now to the
general
chairwoman.
chick. Oh,
And on that note, I sort of like the one thing that struck me. Okay, so this movie was backwards in every way. I mean, the special effects were dismal. The plot lines, everything was garbage. but I think they were way ahead of its time in terms of gender roles and sexuality.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
You know what I mean? And they do it so casually. I mean, yes, it's done very clumsily, and like we have no clue what the fuck's going on. But I found them to be very progressive, and this is well before the whole Me Too movement, right? I mean, we're talking about so with no...
You're probably wondering what we're talking about, aren't
I
you?
am wondering.
Yeah. Okay. Let me explain. Let me elaborate a little bit here. With no explanation, no nothing. Where at one point, the main character Warren goes to Karina. So Karina is the girl who's
His
we're gonna-
ex-wife.
We're gonna assume is bisexual, right? Because she is his ex-wife, and she's
Yes.
also in love with a general who's a female.
Yeah.
He goes to Karina. Goes, I want to join you on your mission, your dangerous mission. And by the way, we have no pretext here who Karina's with, who she's ever been with. We have no idea. We see Karina.
It was like mentioned a little bit, like
No, but he goes to her. Your wife would not approve of that.
yeah.
With no fucking setup. Okay, like, I mean, I'm as accepting as anybody, but it's like, he just casually delivers that line.
and he doesn't bat an
Nothing.
eyelash.
Nothing.
Just
Nobody
says it.
does.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, we never even seen Karina and her wife in the same room. Like, we've never seen them in
You
the
do,
same...
but you don't know that they're together yet.
There's zero
Yeah.
chemistry between
Well,
them,
that's
connection.
interesting.
There's nothing. There's absolutely like just blank slate.
Does it continue that way through the whole movie?
Well, here's the thing that I noticed.
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Oh.
All right, check this out. Now, I'm not sure if this is like an army thing because I've never been in the army. But they refer to all the... Well, first of all, let me say this. There are much higher roles held by women in this movie than men. So women
Oh,
actually
interesting.
hold higher, like they're
Rank.
more superior, higher
ranks,
rank
yeah.
in every way. In this, what's left of the
Yeah, like
human
the
base.
chancellor and the general, the two highest ranked people are women.
So right, and so here's what I noticed. First of all the women are referred to as sir. So when she gives
that's
you an
very
order,
American. That's very
you say,
American.
sir, yes, sir.
But to build on that,
Yeah.
the thing that started confusing me is they call them sir, but then the wife, the general, the wife of Karina, everyone calls her not just sir, but like gentleman or
Yes. So,
like,
what?
do you remember at the beginning they referred? Okay, so there's a secretary, and the secretary of their whole, human state is a female, and somebody refers to her as Mr. Secretary.
yes.
You caught that, right?
Yes!
I thought I was fucking tripping out. I had to like rewind everything. Like it blew me the fuck away. So these guys I think they're like transmorphing like societal norms. Like these are, no, but like they're really so casual about it, and I love it. I love that fact. Like I don't know if it was done in jest, if it was part of the whole script.
I actually thought it wasn't done on purpose. Like, okay, so what the scene we're talking about? So there's two scenes. Like it's most obvious. It's the scene where the chancellor or the chairman, she's sitting at her desk, and then someone comes to her and he's like, "Mr. Chairman," and you're like, "Wait, what?" He's looking at the girl, and he said, "Mr." And then okay, so they just continue on with the scene, and then later on, the main guy Warren and the general are fighting in a hallway. They're like having an argument, and then someone comes in. They're like, "Gentlemen, please stop." I'm like, wait. Okay, he said plural, gentlemen. There's two, but there's only two people in this room, and one's a guy, one's a girl. And I was like, okay, that's
So fucking progressive.
So
Great.
either they're very progressive, or they wrote a script, cast different people, and didn't correct.
and they didn't correct the script. That's what I was thinking.
You make a fair point, and I do want to say okay, all of this whatever progressive things are honestly destroyed by one scene. I thought, okay, one scene where we're treated to all female, I'm guessing soldiers.
I can't fight.
Hold up.
Sorry.
All female soldiers. They're back in their dorm right now. They're wearing what look like to be
Oh,
sort of sexy
God.
pajamas.
No, don't
And
say
now they're a pillow fight. Honestly, it looks like a pillow fight to me ensues. And it's basically the alpha female ends up pressing the beta against the wall, gets really close to her face, and basically tells her who's boss. And I thought this was an adult... Like, this had
this is
all
it.
the
This-
makings of an
This
adult...
is where the porn starts.
This is the porn. I was waiting for that wow wow waka chicka wow. Like I was honestly like all that, Mr. Secretary and yes sir, no sir was all removed, was all deleted, was all destroyed. But this one scene where it's girls in like tight shorts, sort of like tank tops. They're ready to go to sleep, right? It's like a dorm. You got the bunk beds, and all of a sudden there's this like pillow fight, and it's like it's not really a pillow fight, but it's like a play fight, and
They were really trying to fight. I think they were trying to really show a fight. They just shot it so badly. It
what I'm
looked
trying
like
to say is
a pillow fight.
I was turned on.
But like, yeah, to build on what you were saying, it's like a Mean Girls part of the movie, which is so
Exactly.
weird. Like these girls are like, apparently they're the best at what they do, and they're like the best soldiers, and they're hard asses, and then they talk like they're ditzes in high school, and then they fight, like they have a cat fight. They literally have a cat fight. Because this is not me being sexist. It's not because they're girls. It's a cat fight.
No, they made it like that on purpose.
Yeah,
it
they're
was
like-
very you weren't trying to inflict damage to anybody. It was like a very pleasant fight.
I think it might have been a conscious decision by the director to make a cat fight, but it's so weird to have the two, like the progressive
It was definitely a lot of juxtaposition.
gender identity
Yeah.
versus the portrayal of women.
Did you ever look up who the writer and directors were?
No, I
Because
didn't.
I found for a lot of these movies, the writer and director is also an actor.
Oh,
Which
honestly,
I will bring up later.
I really didn't want to dedicate any more time to this movie. Is just so upsetting.
And one thing that I'll just say, my last comment about this movie, that really made it hard to watch, for me at least, it made it just stupid to watch, is the way the voices were done. So I'm not sure if this was the oldest of the movies we watched. This was 2009, like I said. But the voices were all, I think, or for the most part, were recorded after the fact. So we're watching the actors talk on screen, but the voices are all coming from the same place because they were, recorded in the studio afterwards.
Dubbed
Yeah.
after.
It made it so awkward. Like
It's-
nothing was believable. It was so staged.
It's like you had a movie on the screen and then you muted it,
and they're next to
and then
me,
you
like,
played the audio track on a speaker next to the screen.
Yeah.
It was really
I
weird.
guess the microphone technology in 2009 was just out of scope of their budget.
Or they just don't really care about this movie that they're making.
Probably.
Not caring is a theme of this production company.
Yeah.
So, Paulo, you watched both Nazis at the Center of the Earth and Transmorphers. Which one do you think was better?
Or at least bad.
No, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Jesus. You know what? I think Nazis at the Center of the Earth was better by 0.0001%. Like,
Reasons?
just because, okay. Not only was so I think it stands without saying, like, the acting, the production, everything, and the story, it all sucks for all these movies. But Nazis at the Center of the Earth they tried a little bit harder to make it look like something versus
so it's like a facade. The facade was
Sure,
slightly
maybe.
better.
like something. I had to pick something that was better, and it looked slightly better because Transmorphers, like even the camera, it looked like it was a handheld camera that they were filming. Like even when there was just people talking, it was shaky cam. Like the camera was moving all the time, and
So bad.
and everything it looked like black and white. It was almost like a black and white film until like there was two scenes in a hallway that actually had lights in it, and then you could actually see color on the people. It's just like all in all bad.
I think it's also important to know, because it's topical right now in 2018, that the coal industry isn't dead, because this movie was shot in a mine. Like I did actually stick around for the credits, and they do thank a local mine. I think in
Are you
California.
serious?
They do, yeah. It was all
I thought
shot.
you were joking.
No, I'm not fucking kidding you, man. It was all shot in a mine. I'm not sure if it was a coal mine or anything. It could have been a fucking quarry of something, of quartz.
I'm actually impressed that they went
But-
so far as to get a coal mine. Like,
It was some sort of mine that they.
It must have been a really small mine because they only had 3 rooms to work with. Like
Yeah.
it was the one room with the light.
Yeah.
It was the one room that they changed to either have a desk with a light on it, or the room where the cat fight happened.
My favorite room, the catfight room.
okay, so we'll end it off there. For our next getting to know you segment, Alex, you have a bit of a quote, but before we get there, we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions. So again, like the end of Family Feud, we're going to ask you some questions. You're going to give some answers without being able to give much context to them, and then we will get to your quotes after that. So Paulo, you ready to go?
Yes, I have our questions queued up here. Brace yourself, Alex.
Oh, I'm ready.
I want some really good answers out of you. I'm expecting big
Let's
things.
do this.
All right. Ready? Are we ready?
Ready.
There's no time. It's just
I really do have to piss, but yeah, go.
I'm
ready.
I have to pee too, so
All right,
we'll make it
all
quick. Number one, Star Wars or Star Trek? Let's give you a softball.
You know what? I'm probably gonna alienate most of the audience here, but I'm not a fan of either, but definitely Star Wars.
Okay. In the movie of your life, who plays God? Getting really deep.
Oh man, God would be like. I want Tom Hanks.
Tom. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
good.
He's just
Yeah,
like
not bad.
he's just the all-loving God. I find.
Okay. Childhood movie crush.
Alicia Silverstone.
Pick a movie character to go on a road trip with.
Oh my god. A movie character to go on a road trip with.
Yes. This is a speed round.
This is a speed round. Yeah. For some reason, this is so lame, but I think the movie was Rockstar. It's like Mark Wahlberg or some shit like that. Like I don't know.
Almost famous?
It wasn't Almost Famous. I think it was called like Rockstar. Like I play in a metal band right now.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've for the longest time wanted to be like a rock star, and I
Okay,
love music. I
okay.
love metal, and I think he just plays like a really, washed up, fucking hits the whole fame thing. So I want to hear the stories.
Okay.
Of rock fame.
Okay. And last question.
Yeah.
Who has the best celebrity sex tape?
Well, I can answer this one because I've seen them all. Finally, a question that's in my wheelhouse. Well, I will say I saw Pamela's first, right? Garbage. I think I actually watched that one with my dad and his friend. Super awkward, super shitty tape, shaky cam. Paris Hilton, utter garbage. Now, Kim Kardashian's was great, but I think they put a lot of effort in it, so it kind of felt unnatural. Actually, guys, this is actually the first useful thing I will say all podcast, but the best sex tape, you have to Google this one. It's actually a Croatian pop star. Okay, her name is Severina. And it's on a boat. It's in a boat. And I think she was with some...
In the Mediterranean,
In the Mediterranean. I think she was with some rich guy. And she gives everything she's got. She's kind of like a Kylie Minogue, but of Croatia, like of Eastern Europe, of the communist bloc.
So she is famous.
She's famous.
Because I was going to say, like,
She's
feels
famous
like
there.
She's famous over there, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
And that, like, sex tape alone, I think, booked her, like, several world tours. Like, the effort she gives, I think the guy does very little in the whole thing. So, whereas Paris Hilton's, checking her phone. Pamela's drunk half the time, or on Quaaludes. So, yeah, definitely Severina. I forget her last name. Just Google that.
That's not what
Thank
I was
me later.
expecting.
That's a very in-depth
It's a lot more detail than I expected. So
It's almost like you.
I
had
have
that
varied
answer
interests.
ready.
Okay, that was Alex, everyone.
You also have a quote from Watchmen that you want to go through, so feel free to tee it up and then go through it.
Yeah, it's I know it's something of a tradition on this podcast, and this is definitely one of my favorite movies. I love the characters, and I honestly couldn't even think of. I knew I wanted to pick a quote from this movie, but I couldn't decide like which character because I love Dr. Manhattan, I love Rorschach, but I kind of slept like shit last night, so I got a bit of a deeper voice. So let's do Rorschach.
Nice.
So here we go. Now the timing here is very important. I need silence. We're gonna go a little slow, okay? Rorschach's Journal, October 12th, 1985. Dog carcass in alley this morning. Tired tread on burst stomach. The city's afraid of me. I've seen its true face. The streets are extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood. And when the drains finally scab over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up about their waists, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us!" And I'll whisper, "No!"
All right, thank you for that, Alex. And we are going to go right back to you as you lead this next segment on Atlantic Rim, which is a movie that me and you both watched, and I know we're going to struggle with explaining what the plot of this movie are as we have so far. So why don't you take it away?
Well, thank you, and I will. And you know what? Like, I will say that first I watched Transmorphers. I think I watched that on a Monday. And then Atlantic Rim I watched like 3 days after that.
So you knew what you were getting yourself into with this
I
one.
knew it, and the bar was set so fucking low that actually initially when Atlantic Rim started, like I was okay with it. Like like generally I was okay with it. Like I sat still in my seat. I did not fidget with anything. I did not open up other windows on my computer. Like I actually was okay with watching this. Now, having said that, it is 4 years later than Transmorphers. So Transmorphers 2009, Atlantic Rim 2013, and I will say right off the bat, editing is sharper, it's quicker, the pacing is better.
I'm glad they're making progress.
They're making progress. Like the effects are obviously still garbage, but way better. Like eons better than Transmorphers.
This is surprising because I watched Atlantic Rim and that's the worst shit I've ever seen. Like it was fucking
but
terrible.
you haven't seen Transmorphers.
I did not watch.
God
Transmorphers,
bless
no.
her soul. Okay, so the way I wanted to kind of take this is I'm just going to give a quick summary of the movie. Like it's pretty easy thing to grasp, and then just a few of the themes I want to sort of explore in it, right? But essentially, just like the original movie, Pacific Rim, we're dealing with a monster that rises from the sea. And what I like is the action starts right off the bat. So in the first 5 minutes, a whole oil rig is just destroyed by this, like, what it looks like a dragon to rise out of the ocean.
It's a great movie.
5 minutes after that, literally 5 minutes after that, they're fucking launching the robots. Like, right away, we're into the robots. Like, the people are inside them, right? They're controlling
That's
them.
what I loved about these movies. Like I made predictions based on like why the monsters come up, but like they don't give a shit at all. It's just monsters are here. Deal with it.
Exactly. I feel directors in all these movies are like, here's a bunch of shit. You guys work with it. Like, work it out. So, what essentially happens is like, okay, so the monster comes up. We got a situation. Fuck, the army can't do shit about it. All right, let's call these 3 robots. Get a team of 3 people. We got a guy named Red. We got this really cute blonde, Jackie Moore.
We got a
she's
kind of cute blonde.
She honestly, like her facial expression, I mean, she made the movie like watchable for me at least, right? But we got this guy Red, who's kind of like a renegade. He's a bit of a badass. He reminds me of like a sort of what's a good comparison?
He's like
of Red?
Warren from Transmorphers.
He is. He's this like alpha male. Like
I did find him to be kind of like the main actor in the first Pacific Rim, which was like some correlation. Like he's kind of like that renegade badass.
Charlie
kind of
Hunnam.
yeah.
And then there's another dude I think named like Treach or something or whatever. Like that's his nickname. So it's basically 3 of them, right? So 2 guys and a girl, and we later find out there's a bit of a love triangle going on between them. But that's for later. Nonetheless, they get into their robots. Kind of reminds me of like, yeah, it's basically Pacific Rim / Power Rangers, whatever. They go and long story short, they sort of fight this sea monster. They destroy it. Then they have a little bit of a cool off period, right? Like everything is good. They're sort of like figuring out what's going on. And then they realize, and Carson, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's an egg or a few eggs that are hatching in the depths of the ocean, and there's more sea monsters coming.
I remember them mentioning something about an egg, but like they never showed this visually because they don't have the effects budget for it. So I kind of glossed over some of that stuff because I wasn't paying attention as much. But one thing I want to go back on is when we initially see the monsters go into the ocean, and this was one of my favorite parts of watching these movies is trying to guess where they shot these things, because each of these characters, and I don't remember their names, but I remember red, green, blue. They each had like, it's like Power Rangers. They each have a color that defines them, and then they're sitting in like a dark room, and there's like a green light glowing around them, so you know, oh, it's the green one. And I was trying to guess like, is this a closet? Is it a van? Like, where was it shot? I think it was probably like a closet somewhere.
And if it was a closet in Florida. Because again, like I said before, I stayed until the very last credits and I watched where they filmed it, and this was filmed in Florida.
That was actually one of my predictions that actually came true was, well, actually didn't come true, but I thought they were going to rip off Pacific Rim of like, so Pacific Rim it has like the cultures that are around the Pacific Rim. So you have like American culture integrated with Asian cultures because it's Pacific. And so I thought that they would have Atlantic Rim, but still have Asian cultures in it because that's what Pacific Rim did. But they actually got it right in that the part of America they show up in is like Miami and then New York. So it's like you're actually Atlantic Rim. So it's like they actually got that right. So good job to them.
So I have a question about that whole Atlantic Rim thing. Is it just, so it's Pacific Rim, but it's America now?
It feels like, it definitely does feel like Florida. It feels like
But I mean, like,
initially,
it's just-
it's
but
like Miami.
It's just the
taking
name.
out the whole Asian side of Pacific.
Oh, we
Rim.
don't even get the other part of the Atlantic Rim where it's like Europe or Africa. It's just Miami, New
It's
York.
America.
Yeah.
Okay. America mode.
America. Exactly. And so, anyways, fast forward, these eggs end up hatching. The three robots, like our little Power Rangers, get back together, and they activate different tools. I think one of them has a battle axe, one of them has a sword, and they basically start just hitting this sea monster. And it's like 20 minutes of just, I honestly had a hard time watching it. Like, I was into this movie for the first half an hour because, like, I like how fast everything was pacing. But then it just fucking slowed down. And by the time we get to the end and we're fighting this, like, thing that just hatched, it was just, like, three annoying robots with their shitty little weapons against this giant monster. And then they figure out a way to beat it, and it's just shitty, and they win. And it's shitty, and...
A lot of
and,
shitty.
And,
So
yeah.
let's back up to some of my favorite parts of the movie, which are the. So there's a point where there's an initial attack. Monster attacks an oil rig. It goes up to like Miami Beach. Our main character, who is the red guy, who's kind of like the Charlie Hunnam badass renegade character, he defeats the monster on Miami Beach, and then he gets imprisoned for disobeying orders. And there's kind of like the slowdown period where the characters get to talk to each other. We get our love triangle, which I'll get to. But he gets imprisoned. But then he is told that the bigwig society wants him to go out to like celebrate him being a hero. So we get this weird shots of our main character and our female love interest being at. It kind of looks like a high school prom.
For taking him out of prison to be
Yeah,
a hero?
they let him out of prison. There's not even a guard around him. He's just going to a high school prom somewhere. I see, it's supposed to be like a high, like, gala type thing, but he's just dancing with his girlfriend at like a thing. And there's shots of this, like, hey, we're at this high class gala, intermittent with our green robot character, who's like the black guy. He's like the third character in this trio of robots. He's helping victims that have just been like killed and murdered by all these like rampage. So you get like gala
Did you
dance
say
musical.
killed and murdered?
Well, they've been
Killed
killed by
in
like
rampage.
alien came
Oh,
up on
but
the
you
beach.
It just was funny you saying killed and murdered.
I'm exaggerating. Okay, but it's like it was very bizarre to see them dancing with nice music, and people have just been killed. We need to help them, and it's just like it cuts back and forth, and it was like super weird.
I would say just backing up a little bit before that gala starts. So he's in this prison, and then his teammates, so Treach, which is the black guy, and the blonde, I forget her
Kudos to you
name.
for
Jackie
remembering
Moore.
everyone's names.
I'm really trying here. They show up to the prison to talk to Red, our main guy, and I think this was like a 10-minute scene, and it was the most casual discussion about a party and what to bring and like what you're gonna talk about. It was like, honestly, guys, I'll be very real with you. Like, it reminded me of like the four of us discussing this podcast like a month ago. Like what we're gonna talk about. Like, it was just like it happened. I get it. It's not fucking funny. It's just like people planning shit. But it was like, I don't know why this makes the movie, and like what
They
this
didn't
does
have
with
anything else to
anything.
film.
It was one of those mind blowing events. Like, nothing really funny or interesting or relevant, but it did happen. They did talk about what to bring to the party and who you're going to talk to when you get there.
And then after the scene, I think it's a little bit later, we end up at a bar with the three of them, where it's revealed that, so we have a Red, our main character, and then the blonde girl who's the blue robot. They're kind of a thing. And it's revealed that the blonde girl and the green robot guy have been hooking up. And it's like kind of a big reveal. And the red guy comes back and they tell him this, and he's like, oh, that's fine. Like, people make out all the time. And then they make an explicit point of like, no, we had sex. And then they're like, oh, the alien's back. We need to go. This is never brought up ever again. And it's like, again, with Asylum, they bring up things and do not complete
They
the
start
argument.
a plot and then
No.
it's just
Yeah.
dead.
No.
But it's like they make a really strong point of being like, no, this wasn't a small hookup. Like, we really did this. And then they don't go anywhere with it.
The other thing, this is just a theme I've noticed in both Transmorphers and Atlantic Rim, and probably in a lot of these Asylum, and just based on the casting and the actors and the caliber of these actors, is I find one thing I really have a hard time getting, and this is maybe my fault for like submitting to like cultural and societal norms and stereotypes is that
It's all your fault.
it's honestly it's when I hear a male voice that's too high pitched and not confident, and he's supposed to deliver some sort of important line, or he's in a position of power, and I'm just thinking to myself, holy shit! Like either you could have cast somebody better, or even if you're casting the guy with a high pitched voice, like get him to take a few vocal lessons. I swear, only like 2 will help him. Because I can't do it when like somebody who sounds like a toddler who had his trike stolen goes like, they say something important like, the military has been called. Everybody act now. And it's just like
It's funny because I know who you're talking about in Transmorphers.
it's like have that same guy deliver that line confidently and maybe in like a better voice, just like the military has been called. We're doing everything we can, instead of the military has been called and we're doing everything we can.
So you're saying the acting was bad?
Again, I don't want to be mean if it's like a genetic thing, but I swear, like even if it's
genetic thing.
No, I'm saying even if you have a higher pitched voice, even if you have a high, like learn to speak with confidence if you're delivering a line that's it's important and whatever. So I was just fucking laughing.
Be decisive.
Play the part.
But on that note, I will say that I've been thinking about what it's like to be on set of these movies.
I thought about this a lot.
You thought about it. Now, okay, so I'll let you come in, but here's my take. I think this would be one of the most fucking fun experiences to be on it. And I'll tell you why. There's a complete lack of professionalism. You fuck up your line, who gives a shit? Let's just roll, right? Like think about it. Even comedies, like you think of Andy Samberg, Seth Rogen, whatever. There's still a lot of professionalism that goes there, right? These are people that have come through years of improv, people that have come with all kinds of preparation. There's directors, cinematographers, everything. So there's still pressure, even though the end product is very funny, right? There's still a lot of pressure.
Because they're trying to make something good.
Exactly. Whereas I think with these movies, everybody's fucking chilling on set. Everybody's cool. They're all supportive. Like, hey, you fucked up. Who gives a shit? You called a woman a mister. Who gives a fuck? Keep rolling, right? Keep that shit going. And that's something
We'll make it part of the plot.
Honestly, if anybody that has to do with Asylum is fucking listening to this right now, I will be in your movies. I will do it for fucking free. If you put Jackie Moore as my co-star, I'm fucking there. I'll fly myself to LA. I'm so down for you guys.
Who's Jackie Moore?
Jackie Moore is the actress from Atlantic Rim.
Okay.
The blonde.
The cute blonde one.
My future girlfriend / wife.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to touch on that a little bit more when we talk about Titanic too, because there's some phenomenal extra scenes. But one thing I love and I don't know whether they did this in Transmorphers and Nazis at the End of the Earth too, but extras overacting of like, there's people out there who have never acted a day in their life, and they've been told that they are a background in one scene, and they are giving it 500%. And it's great. Like, I appreciate that. Yeah.
There are no extras actually in Transmorphers.
Oh, really?
And Nazis at the
Yeah,
End of the
Nazis.
Earth.
There's just Nazis, generic Nazis with gas masks.
Yeah.
So it's like nothing.
There's actually not that many in Atlantic Rim, but there's a ton in Titanic too, and they're great.
Yes, they are.
We will
get to
touch on that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Well, Atlantic Rim, I mean, there's that one scene with, the little girl that's burning in a hotel?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's horrible, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
there's some
what?
bizarre tonal shifts in this movie.
this is, and normally, I'll tell you why this is bizarre. Okay, so this is near the beginning of the movie. So we've just watched the main robot fight the sea monster, right? Now, they fought hand-to-hand, okay? Hand-to-hand combat on a fucking beach. Cut scene, okay, the monster is defeated. Cut scene, and there's devastation everywhere in this coastal town. I have no clue why. There was no shrapnel. There was one laser fire, but it hit like a building. But all of a sudden, there's like dead bodies everywhere. I have no clue how this happened or what happened.
There's so many extras lying in the street.
Oh my god, right?
It's
right?
great.
But anyways, I do want to say that the guy who played the father of the daughter and the daughter who's burning in the hotel and ultimately gets saved. It's okay, she's alive. I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Little
The
Nicholas.
extras?
They definitely like Nick caged a few of the scenes, but it was good. I liked it.
Yeah,
I
it was
take
totally.
that as a compliment.
Yeah.
You nicked
I
it or
think
something.
they also definitely filmed this after a hurricane or something like that hit Miami Beach, because there's shots where it's legitimately like there's cops around, there's actual disaster footage with 15 extras lying in the street pretending to be dead.
Okay, so on this point, I do want to say something. In Atlantic Rim, I don't know if you guys noticed in the other movies, but they're using stock footage. They've paid, I don't know if it's free or whatever, they bought it from somewhere, they bought rights, but they're using stock footage, right? So for example, they go, launch the Navy, launch the military strikes, launch the airplanes, send in the Marines. And all of a sudden, we cut scene to like a stock footage of probably what is in like an army advertisement of like ships just sailing through the seas. Right? Now, what's interesting is like I'm a little bit familiar with this type of shit, so I noticed how aged these are. So, for example, in some of these scenes that you mentioned, Carson, I actually saw the cars, and these cars were all from the 90s. So this stock footage was purchased from the 90s, right? And also the military, like when they say launch the jets and they show like an F-16 taking off, the fucking Navy hasn't been using F-16 since whenever. It's like it's all been updated, but
Since
because
the
it's
Gulf War.
exactly, but because
Yeah.
it's all old
90s
shit.
probably.
That's what they and they do. Again, I stuck around till the credits. They do say, here's where we bought our stock footage. So they're being honest about it at least. But yeah, it's definitely stock footage that they're incorporating.
I'm getting really mad about the 2 movies that I had to watch because like they didn't even try. Like there was no stock footage. They had jets in Nazis at the center of the earth that they apparently tried to animate themselves.
Yeah.
And looked like shit.
Like absolute terrible
And
CG.
Everything in Transmorphers looked like shit. Everything. Like this.
So I didn't watch other ones, but Atlantic Rim, the monsters, like the robots, were fucking awful. Like they were. I don't know if they were worse than the ones you watched, but like,
Transmorphers was infinitely worse.
Like
really?
the first.
Infinitely
I
fucking
can't
worse.
imagine anything worse than Atlantic Rim. So that's
Transmorphers
shocking.
was probably
Tonight
hands
we're
down
watching
the worst.
Transmorphers, me and you. Okay, Netflix and chill.
I think you guys
Featuring
should watch.
Transmorphers.
Dude, the fact that you said Nazis at the center of the earth was the slightly better one than
Yeah.
Transmorphers, that means a lot because that was unbelievably
Like
bad.
the first 10 minutes of Transmorphers. Sorry to go back to this, just like really quick. But the first 10 minutes of Transmorphers, I thought it was a really bad animated film. Like, and there were people on screen,
And it's live action.
and there were people on screen for a good part of that.
Okay, so we'll end the discussion for that one there. We're gonna have one last break before we get to our 4th movie, and that is our rapid fire questions for Mr. Dan over here. So,
All right.
Paulo, you're gonna fire those up, and then we will give you about a minute here to answer these.
All right, Dan, are you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
We have 5 just random questions for you.
All right.
These are actually looking back at them, I'm not too happy with what I wrote down. Okay, let's start with the softball, like I did with Alex. Samuel L. Jackson or Morgan Freeman?
Sammy J, come on.
Easy, I know. Alien or Predator?
Predator. I'd
Predator?
say Predator, yeah.
Okay. If you could control your own Velociraptor, what's the first thing you would do with your pet?
I would
With your
get
boy
it
Blue.
to storm the White House and
What?
kill Donald J. Trump.
It's a very political answer. What was that third question?
That was 30.
If you are a movie like a James Bond villain, who would your movie henchman be?
If I was a James, who would my movie henchman be? Like an existing henchman or?
Yeah, like a movie henchman that exists in.
Wow, I'm drawing a blank here.
Could be from even literally any character from any movie. Maybe that made it harder.
Yeah, that kind of made it hard.
Anybody, Dan?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, what would your let's make it a 2-part question. What would your goal be if you're a movie villain?
Yeah, come on, world domination.
World domination?
Yeah.
Who do you think would help you the most achieve world domination?
Drawing a blank.
Do you want like a strong person or a smart person or special skills?
Oh, like a mind reader, like Professor Xavier.
What? Okay.
Yeah, man, like Professor X. He could take over people's minds and control them.
You should
Yeah.
watch out though. He might decide to just take over
himself.
Yeah. Last one. If you had to if you're on a desert island, who would you spend the rest of your life with? Will Ferrell or John C. Reilly?
Will Ferrell.
Oh, that's nice.
Come on. Yeah.
Time.
All right.
All right, we're gonna kind of end off with our last movie here, and if anyone's still listening, I just commend you for being able to get through this entire episode. This is probably almost as difficult, if not more difficult, than watching an Asylum film, because
This is not worse. Listening to us is not worse. This is as confident as I'll ever be.
Speak for yourself, Carson.
Like we finish our ideas and thoughts and sentences, which I cannot say about.
that is true. To end this off, though, I really think we are ending this off with kind of the gem of the night, which I'm really happy was one of the movies that I watched, which was Titanic 2. And this was actually what I expected all movies to be like when... this was actually the first movie I watched of these Asylum movies. And so when I watched Atlantic Rim after this and heard about what Transmorphers and Nazis of the Center Earth, like, I was really disappointed because they really did not live up to what Titanic 2 was, which was a really bad movie that was funny to laugh at the whole time. But equally as bad, like... production quality, CGI value, just as bad, acting just as bad, but for whatever reason, I think there's just specific moments that are fun to laugh at. So I'm hoping to do justice with that with this movie. Dan, you also watched Titanic 2 here, so I'll have you help me through this.
Absolutely.
We're fighting over one of our favorite scenes of who gets to describe it. We were talking about this earlier, but we'll get to that when we get there.
The fact that you guys have favorite scenes, I'm sorry to just keep jumping in here, but I feel like I really got the short end of the stick
Yeah, I
on
cannot
this
relate.
episode.
There's no favorite scenes.
I'm pretty sure I got the 2 worst movies of all the 4.
It sounds like it.
I actually have 2 favorite scenes, so Dan, I'll give you the credit card scene, I get the ending scene.
All right.
Okay, so...
Sorry, did you say credit card on a fucking Titanic?
Yeah.
You'll see.
You'll see.
You'll hear it.
Like
yeah.
you boys definitely piqued my interest.
Okay, so Titanic 2 is the story of 100 years after the story of the Titanic. Some rich corporation has decided to build the second Titanic and is going to do this sail the opposite way around. So they're going to sail from New York to London. They actually at some point got like a ferry that was docked at sea because they actually had people on top of a boat. It's the only time they ever filmed at sea or anything like that, but they did have people, and we were going back to extras overacting because you see these people getting onto the boat and there's supposed to be this excitement around, oh, it's the Titanic 2, and you have these extras and it's like whoever was directing was saying, like, make it look fucking fantastic because you have this extra and they're walking down the side of the boat and they're looking left, they're looking right, they're looking left again, and they're like the most fucking interested extra you've ever seen. And then we get a kicking off ceremony where it's like supposed to be a champagne toast, where it's the big kicking off ceremony. It's like 20 people on a boat, like a ferry that's been docked, and they're drinking orange juice. It's the saddest kicking off ceremony I've ever seen. But anyway, to introduce you to who our main characters are, our sort of main character for the first half of the movie is a woman who is a nurse about this boat. So she's kind of working in the infirmary. And then our second main character is the playboy, I'm going to call him like Tony Stark type figure who's kind of running the corporation that's funding Titanic 2. And we learn later on that they used to be dating, but they aren't anymore.
Is the actual ship named the Titanic 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting.
Like, if I was one of those extras, I wouldn't be very excited to be getting. Like,
That's what I was
called
thinking.
Titanic.
It's like a bad fucking omen. And they built it so it looks the same.
It
At
looks
least
the
on the
same.
outside. Yes, it looks exactly the same on the outside.
Like, the CGI wasn't too bad because I don't think there was a boat that they could have filmed that looked similar.
Yes,
Like,
I thought the same thing, especially in the harbor at the beginning. I thought it looked actually pretty darn good.
and again, this was my first Asylum movie, so I was like, this isn't as bad as I
Yeah.
thought. Like, it was pretty decent. And they did build it up a little bit as like, oh, this is the Titanic 1 was bad and it sank. We're going to conquer it really this time. But in true Asylum films fashion, they don't really spend a lot of time on setting the story up or the plot. It's just shit's going down. And the way that it's going down is at the Arctic Circle, a chunk of the Arctic so big broke off that it's creating a tsunami throughout the entire Atlantic Ocean that it's going to wipe out every boat. And this happens within like 2 minutes.
Basically, yeah, it's a giant, it's a big glacier, and this is a normal thing. It's called calving. I looked it up. It's where pieces of the glacier fall off. Right, this is happening all the time now, especially with global warming. But there's calving going on. Chunks of the glacier fall off. They splash into the ocean, and in this case, the difference here is it's such a huge chunk that falls off. It creates a tsunami.
Yeah.
It's like
Through the entire Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, through the entire Atlantic.
And it would destroy any boat.
Because it's also bringing ice at like super fast speeds.
So and how they describe it is that the tsunami, most of the force is actually underwater, is how they describe it.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is, yes, as Carson just said, any ice that's in its path, like any pieces of like iceberg or whatever that's in its path, gets pushed along. So it's really the ice, the big ice pieces that slam into your boat, into your ship. That's what's causing the damage, is what they're saying.
And the way this is shown in the movie is there's a surfer who's surfing at the Arctic.
At the beginning,
yeah, he's near
surfing
at
the
Arctic,
somewhere around Greenland,
as people do.
presumably.
And then like all of a sudden a big wave comes and he's like, "Oh, holy shit!"
Because of the calving, because of this huge chunk falling off into the water.
And then government scientist man goes up to investigate the Arctic, as it turns out, the female lead, this is her father. Also, so this is the most famous actor in the movie. He played the senator from the original
Kelly.
X-Men movie.
Senator Kelly.
Who turns into like a fish man.
The
big budget.
The bigot senator from X-Men 1 was old man scientist, as I called him.
Who like squeezed through the
Yes.
jail cell
Him.
bars.
Yes,
Yeah.
who became the what is it, the blob or something,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
they called him.
So he's in the entire, like, he goes to the Arctic, shit starts to go down, and then the rest of the movie he's on a helicopter driving to the Titanic too, because his daughter's on there. The helicopter is definitely a van. It's great. I love that. So again, shit immediately goes down on the Titanic too. There's like a small announcement of like, oh, there's gonna be some rough waters. Immediately, everybody has gone into severe panic, which is where I loved the extras in this film. They're
so
tripping
good.
over stairs, they're running over people, they're running into walls, they're screaming, like
yeah.
all over an announcement of there's some rough waters coming up. Please stay calm. It's great.
Everybody freaks out.
Listen, guys,
Everybody loses their minds.
I was an extra, by the way. I'll interject here. I was an extra way back in the day for Cinderella Man. If you guys remember that movie.
You were in
Russell Crowe.
Cinderella Man?
I was in fucking Cinderella Man. Me and my brother spent the whole fucking summer in Maple Leaf Gardens, clapping as hard as we can fucking clap, for literally it was like 3 or 4 months, right? But I know the pain that an extra goes through. I know the fucking food they serve at catering. It's garbage, right? So the fact that these extras are selling it so hard,
And they'd be giving them even less in an Asylum movie.
yeah, like Asylum versus a Ron Howard production, obviously. But.
There's also a scene later on where I can't tell if it's extras or not, but there's an engineer in the movie, and he's trying to work his way to the engine room. And so there's a part where
Yeah.
the boat is tipping sideways, and he's trying to because it's not, you can't just walk down, you're like grabbing your way down, you're trying to like scale down like a ladder. And at the bottom of the screen, there's people falling down the boat, and I can't tell whether it's extras on a slip and slide or whether someone dressed up mannequins and just like chucked them down as soon as they could. But it's like every 5 seconds, like clockwork, there's like something that goes zooming by the bottom. of the scene.
So with Cinderella Man, we did actually have dummies.
Oh, yeah?
I sat next to 2 fucking dummies for the whole summer, dressed exactly like me, and showing more emotion and acting capability than I ever did.
So you're the second person on this podcast to be an extra in a big movie.
Who else was there?
This guy.
So,
Oh, no way.
funny you should mention on Pacific Rim.
No.
Naturally they look for a lot of Asian people in Toronto.
I audition.
Yeah. And we just got rained on for a whole weekend. It's pretty shitty.
Like in terms of money?
No, like literally like fire hoses hooked to the ceiling.
okay. Oh,
and
fuck.
then they just splashed cold water.
Yeah, all I did was dress like I was in the fucking 1920s Depression era and
pretty
just
cool.
clap. Like clap my fucking balls out. Like for every time Russell Crowe like swung a fucking
Did
punch.
something.
Yeah.
So going back to the movie, so shit's going down. The boat has been hit by ice. It's going down. There's explosions happening for some reason. And then keep in mind, our main character is a nurse, and her friend, who is also a nurse, has been injured in the infirmary, a place where there are medical supplies. Dan, take it over.
Yeah, so the two main characters, the Playboy guy, and her name is actually, I think it's Amy?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, we'll go with Amy. So they show up. I think it's Hayden is the guy's name. Yeah, Hayden
Yes.
and Amy. Yeah, so they show up like, oh, we gotta find her. We gotta find my friend. They show up and she's like underneath some like, a case or something or some cabinet
Like a
or
bookshelf
whatever.
that fell
Like a
over.
bookshelf. So they pull it off and then she's bleeding and needs to be bandaged. So yeah, instead of grabbing bandages, which would be there because of the fucking infirmary, they're like, oh, I have a credit card. We can use this to bandage her up.
But as
And
soon as they
tape.
said that, so like she was like, "Oh, we need to keep pressure on the wound."
Yeah.
Wait, do you have a credit card?
Yeah, do you have a credit card?
And I thought she's gonna turn into fucking super nurse. She's gonna do something ridiculously cool that you could never do.
But no,
What
they
the fuck?
literally, Hayden literally takes the credit card out of his wallet, and then she's like, oh, we need tape. So then he has to like rummage through all the supplies and find tape, and then they just use it to tape this credit card on the wound.
It's just like two of the corners. They just tape, and it's just like not even that much pressure, but it's just like, okay, it's on
All
there
right,
now.
all right, the credit card, I taped it on. That's the director told me to do this. So,
And then
yeah.
she's fine.
Yeah, then she's
So
she
wait,
dies
so wait.
later, but she's fine from that wound.
They use a credit card to what? Stop the bleeding?
Just
They
patch
just
the
tape it
wound.
onto her
They
chest.
tape it onto the wound as a bandage,
credit
a
card.
credit card, and it's like, you gotta be effing kidding me.
You could get like a piece of clothing. You could get bandage. You could get
the
literally
whole-
anything
Right,
else.
rip off like
Yeah.
your sleeve or something. Yeah, like
And they're
fucking
nurses.
anything. Yeah, that was great. I love that part.
So for the next like 20, 30 minutes of the movie, we get what I'm pretty sure is a hotel, like the basement of a hotel where they're running, like this is their escape from the boat. And they're trying to turn any part of the hotel that they can find into a dramatic scene. There's one point where they run around a hallway and it's like, oh no, there's a wire on the floor. And there's water,
There's a
so we
live
can't touch
wire.
it.
Yeah.
And so there's a bar on the top of the hallway, and he, like, Hayden, who's the hero, we've gone from the female being the hero to the guy taking over as the hero. And so he scales across, like monkey bar style on this bar, and she has to get across, and she gets halfway across, which is like 2-3 feet worth of bar, and she's like, I can't make it! And it's just them trying to turn the most simple scene into like drama and tension.
That was actually the most boring part of the movie for me. That was about 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
The whole like, we need to traverse through the ship, through these like hallways that, yes, were definitely from like a hotel or something.
Yeah.
That was the least interesting, even though it should have been the
I
most
found it interesting because I was trying to guess where they were, and so they went into an elevator at one point, and you could see there was like a lobby floor that was like lobby, and then 1, 2, 3 above were on a boat. It would be lobby, and then below, and it was like that type of thing was funny. But then like, so they go from the bar, like the wire on the floor screen, to there's a door that must be closing. And it's like a pressure door that's super, like, it's gonna close, and so they're trying to, like, he wedges it open with an axe, and then one of the girls is trying to go through it, and then the axe is about to slip, so the girl who has the credit card taped on her chaps like pushes her through, and then she gets squished by the door. And they really try to sell this into like the most tension they can, but it's just a door at a hotel.
It's pretty laughable.
Yeah.
So hold up a sec. I don't know if I ever watched the original Titanic. The first. and the
You
only
don't
one.
know?
I
watched
can't remember
it?
if I watched it in its entirety, but I remember like the main thing was the whole class difference between.
Not in
like,
this at all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to ask.
They do women and children first.
They do.
It's
Yeah.
something they do say, and then it looks like they're doing it.
Oh, it's
but
a nod to Titanic.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
one of two
there's-
nods to the original Titanic movie. But yeah, so they do that, and there's like an asshole guy who like I think dies later on. I can't remember.
Oh, wait. Are you talking about the white trashy guy
Yeah.
that tries to punch his way through? Okay, this is my favorite scene, actually, where this guy is like, he's got the long fucking brown hair, and he looks like a piece of white trash shit. And he just, at one point, so first he shows up twice. The first time is when Hayden, so this is like the wealthy playboy type guy who like basically owns, he's like the boat owner, basically. And so he shows up all of a sudden right after the crisis starts, and he goes, "This is all your fault." And he punches Hayden a couple. He just out of nowhere punches him, and then who pushes him off? Or the girl?
I think it's the girl that
Amy pulls him off. It's just yells at him. It's like, "You stop!" And then it's like the guy just stops, and then they run away. And then the second time he appears, he tries to.
Anyone's fault?
I don't know. It's just it doesn't make any sense. It's hilarious. And then the second time he just appears out of nowhere is to try to force himself onto an elevator or onto the lifeboat or something.
Yeah.
Right. The elevator to the lifeboat, and then the one guy just sort of punches him in the face through the elevator. It's like the T-1000.
As it's closing, yeah.
As it's closing, it's like the T-1000 who gets shot in the head by Arnold, as he's holding the
That's
elevator.
true.
It's just like that. He punches him, and then the guy, they're so serious. The expressions on their face, it was hilarious to this whole thing.
In the original Titanic, wasn't there like a string quartet that keeps playing? as
Yeah,
the
no,
ship's
that's
going
not.
down?
Again,
Okay, no, but I'm saying because this is modern times, like how cool would it be to have a fucking DJ that just keeps spinning as they go down?
There's a
That'd be
lot of-
so fucking
That
lit,
would have
fam.
been more entertaining, I think.
there were a lot of things that could have been cool about this movie. But just to
so
preface,
many missed opportunities.
so going back to Hayden, who's like the playboy Tony Stark guy, who's like the rich guy, we're given kind of an insight early on as to parts of his character that might come up later when it's revealed that these two used to be dating. And then I guess her dad hated him and like punched him. And she's like, "Oh, you were always like a daddy's girl." And then she says, "Oh, you're one to talk," hinting that he likes his parents. And it's revealed his dad just died. That's never brought up again. That's just like a joke that's made.
He's like, "Yeah, my dad died," and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then that's it.
Yeah, no, but like she does it as a joke where it's like, "Oh, you're one to talk," like, "Oh, you also like your dad," and then he has like a sad expression. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, he died." Like, it's really
Wow.
and this is where it's revealed that he wanted to be in the Coast Guard, but he took over the family business because his dad died. Again, setting stuff up that doesn't really pay off, except for the fact that he's a Coast Guard, so maybe he's got some good in him.
Because the
But
Coast Guard are all the good guys, right? Yeah.
I guess. But anyway, so we're at the end of the movie. They're in like a trapped elevator. There's like a bench that's in their way, so they can't get out. Her dad is finally getting close in the van helicopter that he's been riding on for the last 2 hours. And then they're stuck in an elevator. There's one wetsuit and some oxygen. He says, "You take this, like, there's only one of us. Like, we don't want to share it because then we'll both die. So why don't you take it?" And so we get a scene that is the second nod to Titanic, where she lives and he drowns and freezes to death right in front of her. But right before that happens, he says, like, "Hey, I can die and then you can bring me up to the surface and you can revive me." So we get his death scene where he's there, he's sacrificing himself. It's really powerful. You see like his hands are like holding onto her and then they let go as he dies. The dad gets there, they bring him up to the surface. They start doing CPR on him there.
And it's for a long fucking time.
It's a long
like
fucking time that they're doing
3-4
CPR.
minutes of them trying to revive him, like literally.
So what do you think happened now? For those of you that didn't see it.
I'm gonna guess they save him.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if he's our hero,
Or
he
he
definitely
just-
comes back to life.
Well, there's really
No,
two
he
things that-
dies and then the credits roll.
Yeah,
No
literally,
fucking
that's
way.
what happens. They don't.
Wow.
They keep showing him like lying there, like his face, just like or his.
Yeah.
Yeah, they keep doing like showing that, and then showing them, and then showing him again, and then showing them, and
So he
nothing
gets two
happens.
death scenes. He has like the water sacrifice scene, and then he has the will he or won't he live? No, he won't. Credits roll. All the lifeboats have also been destroyed by ice. Everyone is dead except for the girl and her father.
except
Also-
for the girl and Senator Kelly.
Yes. So I looked this up after on IMDb. One of the actors of this movie, actors or actresses, was also the writer and director of this movie.
And it was the guy,
Take a guess who it was.
the Playboy guy.
The nurse friend who dies.
The credit card girl.
No, it was the guy who
Yeah.
who gave himself two
Who
death
gave himself
scenes.
to- Come on.
Oh, of course, right.
This is like the only thing that would make sense.
True.
I thought that was great that like he gave himself like the Leo DiCaprio death scene and then an additional death
See,
scene.
this is the thing with these movies. Like,
what I was wondering is like, do these people, are they just doing it so that they like they can just show off or like be like, yo, I'm in a movie. And
Yes,
then they give
I think that's
themselves
what it
2
is.
death scenes.
That's what it is. Yo, I'm in a movie, everybody. Yeah.
But then at the same time, like halfway, you're in production for like, let's say a year.
Oh no.
No way.
No way, dude. A matter of
A
weeks.
month at the most.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I don't know, but like a month, like in the first 2 weeks, at what point do they realize like this is what we're doing is pretty shit? Are they embarrassed? Like, are
They know it's shit. They know it's low budget.
but do they know how shit it is?
Hey, we're here recording this right now. We know what we're doing. We're not recording the best podcast on the internet, but we're still here having a good time, and that's why we're doing
Yeah,
it.
but we're not spending $200,000 to do it.
Dude, apparently they never lost money on
They
one of
always
these.
make money on a movie.
Yeah,
I mean, we watched it. We're talking about it right now.
I think maybe there's a hope on some level that one of these just goes crazy viral.
Sharknado.
Yeah,
Right.
Sharknado.
Right?
Yep.
And I think that sort of like revives some careers, makes them some money, makes them good money. And I think that's maybe
It doesn't even have to be
the
good
intent.
money.
They're just literally throwing
like-
stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks as far as like viral cred goes.
They've gotten to work with some like semi-famous actors now. Like Mark Cuban was on one of the Sharknado ones. Tara Reid was on one of the original Sharknado. So it's like
Yeah, Mark Cuban is not an actor, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
he's a
Like
famous
celebrities.
person.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you got to meet somebody and not lose money on it.
Yeah.
And like
Again,
one
I'd love to hang out with these people. Like,
one of my biggest takeaways from this is like I can make a feature film. Like I am not less qualified than these people. Like I could make one if I wanted to if they can make this shit.
yeah, yeah, sure. If you know how to use Photoshop and just put a series of pictures together.
I don't know how to do as much CGI as them, which is like they have the lowest amount of CGI.
We'll have to outsource that
Well,
part.
it does vary in quality, though.
So Titanic 2, and this is one of the most bizarre scenes, is when the Playboy shows up on a helicopter, but the helicopter is CGI. And it's really weird because it's like, why would you have him show up on a helicopter if you don't have a helicopter? And it's
Because they couldn't
it's,
afford it, obviously.
it's not even like it's not obviously seamless CGI. Like it's the worst fucking CGI you've seen, and it completely takes you out of the scene. And so it's like, why even do that? You could literally do like any other scene.
Where he shows up any other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna end it there.
Yeah, don't watch these movies.
So here's my surprise of the episode. I went on to watch 4 more of these after.
What?
Are you fucking
Holy
kidding me,
shit.
man?
I watched Avengers Grimm, Sinister Squad, Avengers Grimm 2, which are actually all part of the same universe, with the main villain being Rumpelstiltskin, played by a different actor each time, the first movie of which was Casper Van Dien, who was the main actor in Starship Troopers.
What?
And I think they changed actors every time because he was too good for the sequels. Phenomenal 3 movies in terms of how bad they are. It's like Avengers of like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, and Sleeping Beauty's like magic powers. She makes people fall asleep. Horrible movies. And then I watched Triassic World, which is the best Asylum film I watched. It's like, in terms of like Titanic 2 is better to make fun of. Triassic World is like almost a competent movie.
Huh.
You see, I was interested in watching more of these before we got started. Like when we were talking about the idea, I was like, okay, these sound stupid and hilarious.
But it'll be like fun,
It'll
hilarious.
be fun to watch.
Fun
these,
bad.
make fun
yeah.
of these things.
I think you watched the worst of the worst. They're
Yeah,
better
yeah.
than that.
Paulo, you got the
Like,
short end of the stick. Sorry.
I will actually never watch any of their movies again.
Yeah, I'm done with this. I don't know how you did it, Carson. Like how you went on to watch
I think
4 more. That's fucking insane.
Triassic World has a better story than Jurassic World 2. And I will argue that in depth, even though it's a terrible movie. All right, we'll end it there. We'll end this episode, as we always do, with what movie are we looking forward to coming out soon. Dan, do you have one?
Yeah. So this is this isn't quite coming out soon. This is already has come out. But tomorrow I'm gonna see Ant-Man and the Wasp with a friend, and yeah, we even got like assigned seats. Yeah, it should be good.
It's a great movie.
Well, I'll let you guys know. But the reviews from what I've heard are actually decently positive.
We've already both
That's
watched
right,
this.
Rosa.
My alternative title for this movie is Ant-Man and the Whatever.
What?
Alex, what are you looking forward to?
It has to be Mission Impossible. I think it's like towards the end of July, so in a few weeks. Mission Impossible, whatever number it is at this point, 6 or 7. I think it's called Fallout.
Fallout. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of like anything sort of a good action, good suspense. I love the fact that Tom Cruise is doing his own stunts. I mean, it makes it easier. The fact that he's like 4'11", he can definitely get into like tight spaces.
He broke his ankle on this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. I'll pay money for that.
Good.
Well, I don't think you see it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you
definitely.
do.
Oh,
like,
you do?
I think they left that cut in the movie. Yeah.
Oh
No.
shit! Cool.
They showed in the trailers where he like jumps off a building into another one, and then when he slams into the building, his ankle breaks.
Oh,
Yes,
thought
I
it-
remember hearing about that on TMZ or
Oh,
something.
I gotta
I
watch
thought it
that
would have been the part where he
YouTube
drives
clip.
a motorcycle and he gets hit by a car.
But nothing is as nuts as, if you guys remember, I think it was Ben-Hur, right? Ben-Hur, where it's like somebody died in the chariot scene, and I think they still kept it or something.
What?
This is going back
kept
to like the
the
50s
Like the
or
original
60s.
Ben-Hur, right?
The original Ben-Hur, there's like
Oh.
a chariot scene, and somebody actually died in the filming of that because they're getting like real low to the ground. So, anyway, suffice to say, I love action. Tom Cruise is not too shabby. I love the little gadgets. Kind of like an Americanized James Bond.
I also
So, yeah.
cheer for Henry Cavill. Like I
Yes.
think he can
Yes.
do better things. So
Yeah.
I hope he takes off.
So yeah, so definitely looking forward to Mission Impossible Fallout.
Paulo, how about yourself?
I'm looking forward to Black Cake Klansman. Black Klansman. Directed by Spike Lee. I think it's starring the black dude from Sorry. What's it called? Sorry to bother you.
Oh, I've heard about this movie. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen that one either, but I think it's the same guy. It also has Adam Driver, which I don't think he's done something that I haven't liked yet.
What about The Last Jedi?
I love The Last Jedi. You know how I feel about this. But yeah, it looks really, really good, especially in this current political climate. Tackles, as Spike Lee usually does, tackles the issue of race. That's not why I want to watch it. Well, it's partly. It just looks really interesting. It has to do with a cop, like a black cop who has to go, or he forces his partner to go undercover in the KKK. Yeah, looking forward to that. Also, side note, Carson, Ant-Man and the Wasp was great.
It was not.
Oh shit!
I was gonna say on Black Klansman that you can't go wrong when you know your movie co-stars Topher Grace.
Oh yeah, as David Duke, which is insane. Topher Grace is playing the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Oh my
Anyways.
gosh!
So the movie I'm looking forward to, I'm gonna go off the board. I'm gonna go with a movie called Tokyo Story, which is a famous movie from the 50s and 60s, but I get a chance to credit it here because it's an Ozu film, Ozu being one of the famous old Japanese director. Actually, I think it's probably 70s. But it's replaying at TIFF theaters this summer as our Japanese old movies and Humphrey Bogart movies. So that's what I'm going to be spending my time with because there's nothing good coming out in theaters. All right, if anyone's still listening, we do indeed thank you for sticking with us this long. YouTube people, we know you left an hour and a half ago, so I don't give a shit what you think at this point. But
leave a comment anyway.
yeah, fuck you guys.
Oh, I should have said that like in the first 2 minutes.
All right, thank you, and tune in again next month.
Bye.